All right, Jeremy, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you on, man. I'm excited about this conversation. We talked about for a while doing this, and I know that we wanted to do some on-site stuff, and I'll explain to the listeners how me and you met. We have a good mutual friend, Josh from New World Title, and he's dropped your name in the past. Even though I'm mostly in the multifamily space, but he's always mentioned you guys are taking over on the residential side, and there was we met through a deal that we're going to get into it, and I know it's a very unique deal, and because of the way you guys handled this deal is what created our relationship. But before all that, Jeremy, I want the listeners to know a little bit about yourself. If you could explain how you got into the real estate business and a little bit of your background.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Abiel. I mean, I know we've been talking about this for a little bit, so I'm glad we are able to get this. And I believe in the power of collaboration. So here we are. Here we are. So, no, we got into real estate business in 2006, roughly. We were real estate investors for a couple of years before we actually jumped in. So 16 years in the business, 2006, 2022 now. And we actually, before that, just really quickly, my brother Yuri, he had a cell phone authorized dealer for T-Mobile back in the day, like when the cell phones were like this big and the whole nine yards of, in 1999, 2000, cell phone boom. What kicked us off in that career is that we actually were servicing the Latin market where there was nobody doing that. So he sold in one day on the grand opening is what their T-Mobile corporate offices were doing in a month. So obviously got the back then was Aerial, then Voice Stream, then T-Mobile, whatever. So grew it from one location, got national recognized from the president of Aerial at that time, and said, "What are you guys doing that we're not doing? How did you do so many sales?" And that's how it took off. He says we're servicing the Latin market, and fast forward to 2005, roughly. Ended up having about 36 locations. I personally own a franchise just from him, about 4 locations from him. And once the market got a little saturated, we decided to just take that business that we had, and just we sold it to Metro PCS. Actually,
Wow,
Metro PCS. Yeah, they took
you're
over
giving
both
me
stores.
flashbacks.
I know, right? Metro PCS back then, and nothing. We started, in the real estate side because we were doing investments and stuff like that. We were, back in the day when we were doing, 2002, 3, 4, buying houses, flipping houses, doing all sorts of stuff, and just enjoyed the business. We actually got into it in the as a mortgage brokerage business. So we were mortgage brokers. We had a mortgage broker business, and that's how we got into the real estate side. And very,
Gotcha.
very quickly after that, so I was doing loans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very quickly after that, probably maybe 6 months after, we just say, "Hey, listen, real estate goes hand in hand. Let's open up then the real estate brokerage," and that's what we did. And so from there, history goes after that. The market crashed in '08. How everybody was doing up from
Yeah.
there. But we kept it. We never kind of backed out, kept it going. And long story short, fast forward 16 years later, we're up to 5 locations, 115 agents, and over $1 billion in sales in our history.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a lot. So it seems like you and your brother always had that entrepreneur spirit, and sales has been always your backbone to the business.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I always express that. People say, "Oh no, I'm not in sales." You are. We're always selling, even if you think that you're not in sales, even if you feel like you're on a 9 to 5 in a cubicle and you're not selling, you're doing customer service. I promise you, there's some type of sales going on that you don't even know that's what you're doing. And I noticed that you guys are also developing. So you have multiple facets in your business. You have your brokerage, and then you also have your development side. You're doing new construction, rehabs, and flip. Is that something that's also that you're very involved in?
Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely we have a couple different arms, but our obviously the main company is G World Properties, which has been our baby for 16 years. And, we dabble a little bit of mortgage again. We dabble a little bit in a couple of things, but essentially, the main hand to hand was definitely been the construction. So we saw a need for that. We started doing flips back in 2011, 2012, when you could still buy a house,
Oh my God.
for 60 grand. We were flipping for 130, 140. and
It's a
then
whole
make a
different.
great.
It's a
Yeah,
whole
it's a whole
different
different
animal.
story now. So we did that for many years,
Yeah.
probably under a bell between, my brother and us. We probably, must have done over 200, 300 flips probably in the course of maybe 4 or 5, 6 years. And, but aside from that, when that, when the margins were not that great because of pricing, then we had to just, step out of that system because now you had to buy a $500,000 house to then put in 200,000 to then hopefully sell it for eight or nine,
Just your liability skyrocketing.
because
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
the smaller flips. If whoever's listening, you buy a house for 60 grand, you can put whatever type of material, it doesn't matter. Whoever's
Yeah.
buying it is that type of client, doesn't matter. So, but with that being said, then we definitely saw the vision, and it's a sister company, that we do custom builds. So, they're doing, I don't know, probably about 20, 30 homes a year, but built from scratch on the lot. So for our agents, it was really good because, it gave them another tool to be able to sell. So in these times when the inventory, the last 18 months, which we'll get into probably here soon, but since the inventory was so low, then we were able to offer a new product. Hey, we can get you a lot, we'll find the lot, and then we'll build the house that you want.
Well,
You don't have to
and it's I guess it's also easy for you to gauge what product you should develop because you are the first person that's seen the traffic of buyers coming in, and you're seeing what they're
Yes.
looking for. So it just makes all that much easier for you. Like you start seeing trends. Like we're seeing a lot of buyers asking for this type of property or this type
Yes.
of model of home is really selling. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes as a developer or as an investor that is not in the day-to-day trenches, I would say like a broker or an agent is that is talking to buyers. Sometimes they don't understand what's really how things are happening with and what buyers are looking for. They're just basing it on data. But I think you guys have you guys are direct with the buyer, so you get to feel out what they're looking for, and you could also take them to the direction like, look, we have this product that we have coming onto the market at this time, so it makes sense. I can see why your business went in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to say that I have we share very similar backgrounds in the flipping game, and I also went away from flipping, and I think it was personally for me it was one of the best things I did,
Yeah.
and went into a direction of just even
Yeah.
full investor in multifamilies, and
Yeah.
uh, and then that path is how we crossed. I'll talk specifically about a recent deal that we exited on thanks to the collaboration of everyone and Jeremy's team and my partners. We bought a 102 townhome community, Berkeley Lakes townhomes in Orlando. And I remember when I went to when I put a contract on this property, and I want to add to the listeners, whoever thinks that you can't get a deal off LoopNet, they're wrong. so so because a lot of people say
Yeah.
like, oh no, best deals come off market. You'll be surprised. Sometimes you could get great deals off the MLS and LoopNet,
Yeah.
and don't be naive about that. Just stick to your numbers and stick to your offer. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
we found this deal. We wanted to buy it. It's 102 towns. It was in a community where it was an association. We wanted to buy it for our business of buy and rent and hold. And along the way, we figured out that we could not do that. There was we could only do a short-term rental, 6-month lease. Still, my
Yeah.
gut was telling me this property is amazing, but it did not have cash flow, which it's the number one rule when you're buying multifamilies. The property is not cash flowing, do not buy it. But on this particular deal, I kept going back to my single family home flipping days and looking at the deal from that aspect and kept looking at it, like, why did we flip this? Why did we flip this? Honestly, I was terrified. I was like, no, I exited that business. I want nothing to do with the flipping business. I don't want to flip
Yeah.
houses. I don't want to flip none.
Yeah.
And I brought the deal to our mutual friend Josh, and then Josh goes, dude, I got these guys up in Orlando. They're killing it. Run this deal by them. Let them underwrite it. Let them give you their perspective. And I did that. And you weren't the only broker that I talked to. I talked to 2 other brokers, but something stood out. You guys all gave me very similar comparables. There was nothing unusual about that. But your
Yeah.
attitude and your confidence to selling those units was very different. And also, there was something that you guys were telling me that the other ones weren't saying. You kept telling us that you'll have over 30 contracts pre my before my closing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, this guy's full of crap. Like, I don't believe that. And I never forget, before we closed, you guys sent me a video of you guys were hosting seminars in New Jersey, and you
Yeah,
guys were pitching this deal up there. And I was like,
yeah.
and I looked, and you showed the video, and I looked at how many people were at the event, and I'm like, oh crap, these guys are real.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, of
so
course.
I want, and that's something I want listeners to understand, because coming from a brokerage background, a lot of friends of mine are realtors. You know, that's
Yeah.
something that you're not used to seeing. Everyone's always relying on Zillow, always relying on, you know, on friends and family. Tell us a little bit about how you guys do things outside of the box, that it has nothing to do with with Zillow, or marketing on social media. It's just more of a face to face thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's very, very interesting. And just kind of looking back and going flashback to that. I don't know if you remember, I told you, but that call was on my birthday.
Right?
But
Yeah.
Josh had told me, you gotta look out for this call. I already pitched it. It's good. You gotta talk to Abiel. And I think I waited a few days for the call, but the day of the call, I was in my birthday lunch. It
Yeah.
was hilarious. I was like,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
told my wife, she looked at me, so who is it? It's like, I gotta get this call. And then obviously we were able to talk to at that time. But um, so basically, going back to the question, it's all a matter for us. We always are going to believe that service is going to be always senior to selling. Selling, as we just talked about, selling happens on an everyday basis. However, in this type of residential or commercial, but in we're talking about residential when we're selling to a consumer or an investor that's going to purchase, and these type of investments is different, right? You're buying, 102 units, the stuff like that. When you have a new investor that is their first deal or their second deal, even their third, it's still a pretty emotional purchase because they're taking everything they've had saved up, a 401k, and it's different. So when you come to that residential sense, when it's that type of investor or somebody in this case, because in Lake Burley it was either a long-term, either a primary residence or a short-term lease. So we were actually selling to an actual primary residence owner, right? So it becomes very personable. So in the residential side for us, is was work for us is obviously the genuine sense to help people. I think that goes a long way. And there's here in the Stellar MLS, which is the Stellar MLS that we have, is 14,000 realtors. So what's going to differentiate ourselves? Because everybody knows a realtor, for God's sakes. Now the long guy's a realtor, the nightclub DJ's a realtor too, part
Every
time.
family member has more than one realtor, more than one.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
care, I don't care how big your
Exactly.
family is.
Exactly.
Everyone has a realtor. There's two in my family.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So what differentiates yourself? And I always say, oh, I know I have a realtor. And sometimes I ask, did you have a realtor or did they have a license? Are they practice on a regular basis? What we do 24/7. And for us, not only are we doing this full time, but also is that personal relationship we can build with clients. We talked a little bit about social media. We obviously have a big presence there. You can definitely search G4 Properties and search my name. You'll find tons of content that we've produced over the years. And it's great how the reach that we have. But once that client reaches out to us at that point, because they've been watching us for years or they've been doing whatever, is now taking them and genuinely helping the client, not just treating them as another transaction or another number, actually getting to know them and actually getting to know their families, actually getting to know exactly what they're trying to do. And once we train that to our agents, that's the same way that you should be treating all your clients, then it's a different story. It's not just a commission. It's not just a deal. It's not just the next deal. It's that lifelong relationship that you're going to have for the rest of their life and your life as an agent is what can we do differently. So when you take that into a stage like social media and people you gather a following, it's a big responsibility because whatever you're going to say they're going to believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once we get the trust of the consumer, and for us also follow-ups and drip campaigns and that sort of thing is big for us because you can touch, somebody, you can touch a consumer and okay, they might continue following you or looking at you, but it is up to you once you have grabbed that information. A lot of people say it's spam and it's not because now you're bringing value to that client. So we have clients, we're working with clients right now that have been following us for years. And because of a text message, email, drip campaign, or just for them seeing us on social media, it's like we have a relationship,
Yeah.
And for us, that has worked very, very well. It's always being top of mind. So when that time comes, and now we got that consumer, with us, then we treat them like royalty. Okay, that's
Yeah,
really what it is.
when
Treat
you have
everybody like
that,
millionaires.
yeah, and when you have that many consumers in your platform, and you have a project
Yeah,
like the one that I brought to you, it's
yeah,
easy just to tap into it. And
yeah.
here's inventory, guys. There's no inventory in the market, but we just brought you
Here.
102 units of inventory, and it ended up being a very successful deal.
Yeah.
Jeremy's team sold 102 townhomes in 6 months, and I was, but I want to add though the it was faster than that because it took that long to close because you had to do
Yeah.
conventionals and buyers and all that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
we
absolutely.
were
Yeah,
very
yeah.
happy with the relationship and we were carrying a lot of debt on that property. It was a high risk deal,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
one of the highest risk deals I've done in my career. But we had a group of investors that believed in it. The timing couldn't have been any more perfect in the market. The lack of inventory.
Perfect.
It's no secret how hot Orlando is, and we priced it well. And one of the things I want to add is the advice you gave us that we started increasing as we started
Yeah.
closing, which that
Yeah.
added an extra bonus to our top line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And mind you, you mentioned that we did sell them, right? And I wanted the viewers to know the power of a network or the power of your database. I'm gonna say 95% of those sales were off market. We actually, to be honest, we didn't even list one on MLS.
no, you did.
It was all from our network, our buyers, our investors.
Yeah.
And that first day, like you mentioned, I mean, I think I want to say it was August 1st. I think we said we're going to start this. You were
Yeah,
closing the 28th of, yeah,
yeah.
it was,
I
yeah.
remember you told me, he goes, I got 30 pre-sold, and I'm like, you're right. And
Yeah.
then you're right, and then I was like, holy shit, you did have 30 pre-sold. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that was a boost of confidence. That was good.
No, it was good. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's that pre-sale was that I remember it was August. Yeah, because we closed I think on the 27th, 28th of July. I
yeah.
remember because it was my grand opening for my office in Melbourne, and I was in the middle of all the prepares, and Josh told me no, they're closing right now. And then that Saturday, everybody knew in our office we had just done a tour in New York, New Jersey, and also here, and we had the waiting list and we had everything. The only thing they needed to do was whoever was local go see the unit, or whoever wasn't local, the agent was doing the FaceTime, and that's it. Within, I think we opened it up at 8 a.m. because that's when they allowed us. Within 9 a.m., all the contracts were already sold. So like everybody was already contracts in.
Yeah.
And that's the way that we created that urgency that this is something.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype in it, and it worked out. I saw another side of residential real estate that I hadn't seen before. It's a quick glimpse how a lot of developers do it. You basically treated us like a developer, and that's how you marketed. So
exactly.
It was pretty exciting. So I want to jump to your philosophy, your 200% philosophy. 200%. First time I ever hear that. The most common one that we all hear is the 10x, but yours is 200%. You're setting the standard and the bar very high with that. Walk me through that philosophy, and because you definitely walk and talk it. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's for me, I panned the term, and there's so much going to it, but we're always trained. Even depends on what generation you were brought up in. I'm an '80s. I'm from 1982, so I brought up that and sometimes we are growing up and we're expected to do something. We're expected to just do just enough. We're expected just to just go ahead and make it. You know what I mean? And that to me, it's obviously everybody's trying to do that. But what if we take whatever you're supposed to do or whatever you're expected to do and double your efforts and double your consistency, double your persistency. So that's how it came, let's not just work at 100% pace. Let's do everything that we do and we're supposed to be doing at a 200% pace. Because you're going to double your drive, double your results, double your efforts. There's no way that you're going to lose in that sense. It's going to, double your chances to get where you need to be. So when I tell some of the team members or agents, hey, you're supposed to only make quote unquote 50 calls, go ahead and go with 100 calls. If you're doing supposed to do 100, go 200. And I will tell you that with that sense, it has brought so many opportunities for a lot of my people in my circle that it just worked, And then I was, panning the term, it's just double your drive, double your efforts, double everything. And everybody just knew me, oh, Jeremy's 200%, oh, Jeremy's 200%. Until I decided and I said, well, listen, why don't we take this? And I was talking to somebody that I've been working with, a very dear friend of mine. He's a graphic designer and everything, and he's done everything. He's designed the Geo logo, he's designed my logo, he's designed everything that you can think of in my business for over 10 years. And I said, listen, I want to come up with something, and I want to start this brand that is the 200%, because I already knew me, and I would do it. That's the thing with the brand. You have to do the brand when you do the brand. So everybody, someone to talk to me, I would text people, text message or on social media.
You got to walk and talk it, man.
Yeah, walk and talk it. And it just took off. I mean, everything was took off. And about almost 2 years now, my good friend of mine, he designed me this logo, which was really, really cool. He made it very urban, very cool. And now I have it plastered on my wall here. I have a check art. Have you seen it right on the podcast?
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's a mural, or it's a mural of I think it's 120 commission checks. And he plastered out there, and then he wrote the 200% awesome. Really big on top of it. So that's my it was like a commission artwork. And every time, everybody who comes in and works here, even the clients or even me, see it's a reminder to just do that. And obviously, we've taken it to the next level. We have the 200% podcast, which started a few months ago.
Watching your series.
Yeah, and it was actually. Yeah. It was actually not by accident. I hired amazing social media director, manager. She's actually has a camera in front of me right now.
Always creating content. Always
creating content. And she just gave us the idea, me and my wife. My wife also has her podcast and all that good stuff. I got an access to what. And then I said, well, you should do a podcast too. So I said, let's do it. So I just said, what's the name of it? And I couldn't think of anything else. It's 200% Life Podcast. Yeah. How to live your life 200%. Oh. How to give entrepreneurs or upcoming professionals, or even just people that are trying to do things better for themselves, give them great topics to talk about. So I go over a lot of things.
I'll add to that what you're saying. Like you created multiple platform podcasts, blogs, series, and I've seen them. Yeah, everything. And it seems like you're having a lot of fun doing it. But I can tell you, I can tell you, I did this venture of podcasts and blogs recently. The one I personally enjoy the most was this one, the podcast. I enjoy the conversation. Awesome. I'm not that comfortable yet by myself talking. That's something I'm working on. What would you say to someone that is, because it could be overwhelming. So I just want to give advice about that, about having a platform where you want to create content, but you feel like you don't have a personality. You feel like you're shy around the camera, or you don't want to be judged. I think that's one of the hardest things that happens to people. You care. It's happened to me. I'm like, what am I going to put out content out there? And my advice to that, and I want to hear yours, is if you create content that you feel is genuine and you're looking to educate, you can't go wrong. You can't make everyone happy. But if you look for the path of educating and giving value, I promise you that you won't go wrong, and you're going to be very happy with the content that you create. And that was the path that I took. This conversation that me and you have right now, I know that you're going to create some reels. I'm going to create some reels, but those reels are going to have golden gems, because I know when I listen to reels of people that I admire, people that I want to hear what they have to say, it just triggers, and you're like, oh, that made a lot of sense. Damn, that was good advice. Wow, that was really good. So you need that positive, because it's so negative. Everything else in the news is so negative. So we need to create value in our own way. What would you say to someone that is hesitant on creating content, afraid of posting social media? What advice would you give them?
My biggest advice, and just like you said, sometimes we kind of have to break that wall, the chain that, we're self-conscious of how we look. I have a pimple today. I don't want to be on camera, and changing your perspective. But there was one thing that big Gary V fan, by the way, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Love it.
There was one thing that he said that kind of just triggered, because I was no problem. I have no issues being on camera. I have no issues. I was in a rock band. Yeah, I never knew this about me, actually. I was in a rock band for
I
10
can't.
years.
Oh man, I gotta see those pictures. We got the throwbacks.
Yeah,
I
I was
gotta see that.
I was lead singer, guitar, the whole 9 yards. I used to,
Oh, so this is second nature to you, man. It's not fair.
yeah. So it was, I used to play the guitar with my teeth and everything. So big rock band. We used to play, crowds of a couple hundred people. But so that comes to second nature to me. But when it comes now to this day and age where we're in a big social media, where literally with 2 or 3 clicks, you're connected to millions upon millions of people all over the world. Something that Gary said is if you're not on social media, you're invisible to the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nobody knows you.
You have a circle locally and organically here in the local, but if you're not putting yourself on social media, the amount of reach that you're losing for yourself and your business or potential business, it's incredible. Like
Right.
literally, it's gonna get to the point where we even said it, and it's gonna be, hey Alexa, who's the best real estate agent in the 5 mile radius, and they're gonna say your name if you are on social media, because that's the way that we're headed. So what my advice is, it's just that, be on social media, because your reach just became infinite. So you have to break the walls of what you think of yourself, because you probably are harder on yourself than people are going to be on you, really. Okay. There are going to be the trolls, the haters, and when we go, all that is not a problem, but literally what you have to, the information and the knowledge that you probably have, is going to be beneficial to somebody out there. Is it going to happen overnight? It could. You can get lucky, you go viral within a day or two. Or is it going to take you putting out 100 pieces of content before somebody actually notices? So with that also is the consistency. Don't just do it for 2-3 days and then you're done. You have to be consistent. We're constantly putting content out there. Monday through Friday is content every day, on 6 or 7 platforms that we're in. So somewhere along the way, it's gonna catch on. Someone's gonna notice and someone's gonna catch on. So that's my advice to everybody out there. Don't be invisible to the world. Put your content out there.
Yeah, put yourself out.
It's gonna evolve. Yeah, it's going to evolve, and it's going to get to your niche,
Correct. Now, I want to touch on points on realtors. I want to go straight into this one because this is one it's one of the reasons that my personal opinion, I fear for a lot of friends and family who are realtors that are commission based and are relying on just Zillows and Realtor.com and Redfin as their platform and their only way of getting leads and making a commission. I honestly feel that those industries, those big platforms, are after realtors' commissions. And what would you say to that? And how important it is that realtors start thinking outside the box and not just rely on these platforms to make commissions?
Yeah, I mean, again, great companies, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com. They've been, they're made to grab the consumer, with everybody, what they want to do. When a consumer wants to purchase a house, that's where the first place they're going to go. They want to search properties, etc. So, with my sense, it's gotten pretty oversaturated. And again, great companies. I've tried my share in Zillow, Realtor.com, but I felt that the amount of reach, that for the same amount of money that you're spending or somebody's spending on Zillow, Redfin, or Realtor.com, for the same amount of money, you're going to have a lot more reach with you pushing yourself out there. You doing a paid Facebook ad with your face on it is probably going to have more reach and more conversion rates than Zillow.com. Unfortunately, the way that it's going, or the way that it has been for the last few years, is that the big players are the ones that are getting the most conversion rates on those websites. So people who are spending $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on Zillow are the ones that are getting the most there. I know a company that's spending $150,000 on Zillow. So how can a company like that, or how can a single agent or a 2-3 person team compete with a monster that's spending $150,000 a month, where your $1,000 a month is not reaching nearly that? So that for me says more that we need to convert a lot more agents to the face-to-face, on your camera, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn sort of conversion, because they're still pretty affordable. Okay. Out of all of them right now, TikTok is actually the most affordable on paid ads to get it off.
TikTok is still very new to that industry.
Absolutely. And now it's not just for kids anymore. Adults are taking into TikTok, which is crazy. And what is the difference between the kids that started TikTok to now the adults jumping in is that adults have now a credit card and they have money, and they
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
401k. So
yeah,
for us real estate agents, it's huge. So find your niche and just go for it. I just say just
yeah.
find your niche. It might take you a little bit to find it, but just find
Yeah,
it.
it takes
You
time.
know?
Yeah, it's if you partner up with a team and mentorship, it goes a long way. So don't try to figure it all by yourself. You should be looking for
Yeah.
mentors like yourself, and if you're lucky enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to just jump to the last three questions I have for you, and I know
Yeah.
this is the number one question you're getting asked. I
Yeah.
probably answer this question myself 2 or 3 times a day. Are we going into a real estate market crash, Jeremy? Let me hear your take on that.
Awesome. Well, we just touched on the bit of podcasting. I've been in this for about 16 years, investor a couple of years before that. So almost 20 years just being in the real estate world, being in the business. But experiencing the crash of 2008 and there's a lot of different feelings about this because the crazy part about it is although it feels like 2008, it feels like, a bubble. It's really not. I mean, that's my honest opinion. If we had a crystal ball, we'd all be billionaires right now. We'll be in a yacht recording this
Yeah, yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
But the truth is that the market's going to speak, right? So what I know about 2008, the main reason was of the economic crash was the housing market. And why was it? It was the loans. It was the toxic loans that got us there. You have a pulse and you're gonna, you'll be able to, get a loan, right? And not only get a loan, you get 100% loan and your score could be 500 FICO score, right? So it was just a lot of unresponsible practices that the banks did it. So we blame the banks. It was their fault, right, quote unquote. But it was there. So people were buying houses they shouldn't have been able to buy. So that's the reason for that quick. You remember these? Yeah, you used to buy a house today and 3 months later your house was worth
I still have
$100,000.
scars. I still have
I
scars.
know we're still kidding. So I remember sitting into, doing a lottery and a new construction
Yeah,
developer, and it
yeah,
says, if you pick your number, you have the
yeah,
opportunity to purchase a house,
yeah,
and then you will go ahead and flip that contract 3 months later for 50 grand, right? But that's not the case now. You have to qualify for these loans. You have to submit your tax returns, your W-2s. So the buyers in today's market, have to qualify. What we're seeing and the quick equity buildup that we're seeing or prices increasing is just due a simple supply and demand. So when people ask me this question, I have to return back to 2008, take them to a flashback because it is not the same. It feels the same, but it's not. A lot of people are telling me, oh, it's just like 2000, and it's not because the loans are good. So what has caused this craziness of the market is because two things. My opinion, low interest rates in COVID, and then builders freaking out, and just people freaking out, saying what was going to happen. People are going to lose their homes again, like 2008, and that's exactly the complete opposite happened. So, in the last 18 months, going on 2 years now, we've just seen the shortage of inventory. It was because due to a supply and demand issue. People went crazy buying. People from California, New York, especially here in Florida, moving here, getting all the stuff here. I can buy a house for cheaper than I can there, selling their 300 square foot condo for $800,000. Coming in here, you could buy a palace here in Florida. That's what happened here, and it's just a supply and demand. And what happened is that people are seeing that, but now people from New York, California, saying that house is 400,000. I'll pay you 450, and I don't care about the appraisal. I'm going to pay cash. The overage, I'll pay cash. Whatever it is,
yeah,
the deficit, I'll pay cash.
yeah.
So now that we went through that phase, now obviously I think government said, when is this going to stop? And then obviously what they did was it increased their interest rates, and that's where we're at. So now we're in a very interesting phase of the market where it's softening up a little bit because now a lot of people just kind of put themselves on hold because they couldn't qualify anymore for homes. Our houses now are worth this much. We will qualify for this much, but with interest rates now, we're even qualify for less. So there's nothing we can do. So we're seeing that change now. What is it? In August 2022, we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown, but because of those rates, right, going up a little bit. And then you have the big players that say we don't care about the rates. We're going to pay
Yeah,
$15,000
yeah,
and we'll buy down your rate.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, my short answer, or just to kind of finish this question up, is like I think in the next 3 to 6 months, we're just seeing a stabilization of the market more than anything.
Yeah.
Now, instead of your house or the property, getting a $50,000, increase in equity in 4 months, it is going to take you now 9 months to a year, which that's what it should have taken. You know,
Are you seeing bidding wars still in Orlando, or in your other?
absolutely.
You have other offices. Have you seen bidding wars still?
Oh, absolutely. So
Yeah.
not as much as they were 3, 4 months ago. Like 4 months ago, we had 27 offers on one house. Now it's more like 6, 7,
Yeah,
something more
yeah, yeah,
modest.
yeah. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that. I mean, me personally, I agree with a lot of things that you said. It is a different market. I'm just very weary to how far the Feds are going to take this interest rate thing.
yeah, yeah.
If
I know, right?
I'll give you a quick example. I looked at my dad's HUD in 1980. It is, I forgot what it was. He had a 14% interest rate
Yeah,
with FHA. I couldn't believe it. I mean, also the home was a $70,000 home, but he told,
yeah,
I
yeah,
looked
of
at it, he goes,
course.
that was normal back then. So
Yeah,
I stopped to think, like, can we go down that path where rates go into nines and eights just because they need to push down inflation downwards from where it's at? It's very weary. I'm on the sideline watching, Jerry, because I can tell you my world of multifamilies and commercial, I am seeing contracts falling through, and they're falling through because they're under contract and the banks are asking for more money down because now the cash flow doesn't cover.
correct.
So they're saying, okay, you need to put an extra 5%, an extra 3%, an extra 3 million, an extra 4 million. So I'm
Yeah,
seeing that happening in my industry, and it's going to be interesting if it gets to those eights and nines. If it does, that's going to be a scary scenario.
yeah,
Maybe it
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
something that, like you said, nobody has a crystal ball.
Yeah,
We'll have to play, but there is a lot of lack of inventory. So it is going to
yeah.
be very interesting to see how it turns out, man. We're living some crazy times, I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, back in the right before the crash happened, I mean, the rates were 7.5, 7.75. I mean, you got anywhere in the sixes, and people will ask you, "How'd you do that?" You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was the
yeah,
truth,
yeah, yeah.
So I think obviously the market has changed a lot, but in 2006, seven, I mean, that was a normal rate. 7.5, 7.875 was
Yeah,
normal. You know what I mean?
yeah, that was
And
normal.
your second mortgages, if you were doing an 80/20, 80%
Ooh,
first,
80/20. Oh, I
20,
remember
and the
those. Those are
20% was 13, 14%, no
Yeah,
problems at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
There
Those
was no issues.
80/20s were
Yeah, I get
that was
you
pretty
flashback.
wild.
So
I
so
told a lot of newbies about that. Like guys have not been in the industry a long. I tell them, dude, I used to do 80/20s. They're like 80/20s. Yeah, 80/20s, bro.
yeah.
Those
Yeah,
things are awesome.
and I tell my consumers now, and this is something is, marry the house, but date your rate because the rate can always change. When all this stuff kind of blows over in the next year or two, you can always refinance and get yourself out of that. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of at this point, the value of owning a property, whether it be for primary investment, what is that value, and go from there. I mean, go into your world a little bit. A lot of our investors had no issues doing hard money loans. Hard money loans were big in the last 6, 7, 8 years, and you're paying 12, 13, 40% rates.
Well, I'll give you the Berkeley Lakes that we bought that property with an 8% interest rate.
There you go. Because what is it? It's the value of owning the asset,
Yeah,
and
and,
the results is
we made
there.
over 140% return on our money. 140. That
It's a thing.
we both killed it. We both killed it. So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the deal makes sense. The rate you just gotta do it.
Is the value of what you're going to get with the asset is really at the end of the day. So we need to introduce that or give that to the consumer. The average Joe is like, hey, listen, don't think too much on the rate of the payment. Obviously the bank's not going to let you afford something you can't afford, but think of the assets what's going to be worth between now and 5 years from now. That's really what it is.
Jerry, man, it's been a pleasure. I know I promised you 30 minutes. We just took it to like
I'm
almost an
good, man.
hour.
I'm good.
And I appreciate
Yeah,
the
yeah.
insight. It's a pleasure. Continue crushing it, man. You guys doing an amazing job. I'll be in the sideline watching you guys continue to grow your brand. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you for everything, man.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to have you on one of my we're gonna do a
You know
vlog.
what?
So
Yeah, let the listeners know about your get the listeners the insight on where they could catch you.
Absolutely. So, obviously, every social media platform, Instagram, Facebook. I'm big Instagram right now. Facebook is mainly for us for a thing, but Instagram, Facebook. We are on TikTok. We're on LinkedIn. We have all the platforms, and then obviously the podcast. My 200% podcast is available. It's called the 200% Life Podcast on any of the podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google podcast. This is available there, and we also have a 200% vlog, which is a 200% live vlog, which it's on YouTube, which that is running about once a month now. That's our goal right now. So
Well,
that's a little more entertainment.
yeah, no, we'll
Podcast,
drop the links.
yeah, this is more podcast is more like this, like very knowledgeable. I threw a little comedy in there because they got to keep people on their toes and just hopefully they can laugh a little
Yeah.
bit. I have my trademark intros to all my podcasts, and yeah, and then the vlog is just pure entertainment. Vlog is literally where we're drinking
You let loose and
tequila.
have fun, man.
We vlog. We did the tattoos, the 200%
I know, I
tattoos.
saw that. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. So pure entertainment, pure entertainment.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
try to keep it engaged for 5-10 minutes, but it's all good. But drop the links in there, and I appreciate
We'll
everybody's
share.
support on catching us there. Okay,
Jeremy,
absolutely.
man, appreciate it, man. Thank you for your time.